All right, team. Thank you very much for attending this Tuesday meeting. It is October 16th. We are at our regular meeting at 7:45. Our club mission, the mission of our Toastmasters Club, is to provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. So let's hear it for our mission. Thank you all very much. We have a speech for tonight from yours truly, so look forward to that later on in the meeting. And at this time, I'll pass it off to our Toastmaster, Dan Craig, to take on the meeting. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Mr. President, fellow Toastmasters. Of course, my job as Toastmaster is to keep us moving along with the agenda. The first thing I'm going to do, though, is say that our meeting theme tonight is the beauty of facts. We had a couple of fun quotes. One is, prejudice is a great time saver. You can form opinions without having to get the facts. E.B. White. And then, facts are stubborn things, and whatever may be our wishes, our inclinations, or the dictates of our passions, they cannot alter the state of facts and evidence. John Adams. With that background, let's move on to hearing from our role players to explain what they'll be doing to keep the meeting running tonight. Our first role player is our timer, Jean Symington Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Tonight, as the timer, I will be timing several sections of the meeting, and yay, the Craig household located the timing cards that we knew were here somewhere. So now we have those to use. First, we'll have a speech by our president, which is a 5 to 7 minute speech. At 5 minutes, I'll show the green card. At 6 minutes, I'll show the yellow card. And at 7 minutes, I will show the red card, and he will have 30 seconds after that to finish up. Our table topics are 1 to 2 minute impromptu speeches. I will show the green card at 1 minute. I will show the yellow card at 1 minute, 30 seconds. And I will show the red card at 2 minutes, and then you still have 30 seconds to finish up. For evaluations, we will have a speech evaluator and a table topics evaluator. These are generally 2 to 3 minute speeches. At 2 minutes, I will show the green. At 2.5, I will show the yellow. And at 3 minutes, I will show the red. And the evaluator will have 30 seconds after that to finish up. And I will give a report at the end of the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
And Jean, since you're also our ah counter, go ahead and explain that role.
Yes.
I realize that having 2 roles may seem like an inordinate burden on you, but I'm sure you're able to pull it off.
Wow. That's
yes.
Thank you.
Yes, the VPE does seem to make inordinate demands on some of our members these days, but she does it because she knows they can handle it. As the ah counter, Mr. Toastmaster, I will be counting the filler words that people use throughout the meeting. These are words such as well, so, like, but, you know, there are now, it could be now, there are a number of things that I'll be looking for. Also repeats, where you start a sentence, do it again, like that, and anything else that I see. And I'll be giving a report at the end of the meeting.
All right, on to Aaron Russell, who's serving as grammarian.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Hello, Toastmasters. As your grammarian tonight, It's my responsibility to pay close attention to all speakers, listening carefully to their language usage. I'll make note of any improper as well as proper uses of language, turns of phrases and the like, words, quotes, sayings, thoughts, etc. It's my job as the grammarian to also introduce the word of the day. The Craigs have beat me to the punch. I've already used the word of the day despite that it hasn't even been introduced yet. The word of the day for tonight is inordinate. It's an adjective, definition of which is exceeding reasonable limits. And as in a sentence example, I said that receiving service at the DMV takes an inordinate amount of time. I will be looking for usage of that word of the day throughout the meeting, as well as other uses of language. And I'll give a report at the end of the meeting. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Later in the meeting, we're going to hear from Bob in 2 roles. He will take over the meeting about midway as general evaluator and also evaluate the evaluators for us at the end. And Bob is also going to serve tonight as our joke master.
Thank you, Toastmaster. Mike, say anything or just acknowledge, Dan?
You can just wave, kind of like the Queen. We'll move now to the section of the meeting where we have our prepared speeches. That's going to be by Aaron tonight. I am Toastmaster and I'm also his evaluator. So the first thing I'm going to do as his evaluator is read the objectives of the project. So you're aware of that as you watch him talk. And then I will read his introduction before Aaron begins. Tonight, Aaron is going to be doing his first project in level 3, which is persuasive influence, understanding conflict resolution. The purpose of this project is for the member to develop or enhance his or her understanding of the steps and strategies to address conflict. The purpose of this speech is for the member to share some aspect of his or her experience learning about and resolving conflict. Now, an introduction for Aaron. There it is. Tonight, Aaron is conflicted to talk about his topic, which is conflict management. In dealing with conflict, there are some areas Aaron feels he excels at, but there are just as many, if not more, areas where he needs improvement. He will be exploring several of these areas in tonight's speech. Aaron is a paint manufacturing engineer at John Deere and the current director of the Fairfield Young Professionals. He has been in Toastmasters for 2 years and is the current president of our club. In his spare time, he enjoys raising his daughter Vivian, playing guitar and piano, and brewing beer. He tries to do as many of those simultaneously as possible. Let me suggest to our members that we put our mics on mute. And then let's give Aaron a warm welcome.
Picture, if you will, 2 people locked into an argument, each party screaming at the other about why their opinion is correct. My fellow Toastmasters, this is what you may imagine when you think of the word conflict. However, the definition of a conflict is actually nothing more than a disagreement between 2 people. And given this, I'm sure you can agree that conflict is a constant and inescapable side effect of dealing with other people. Because of this, it's important that we understand how to properly navigate it. By exploring my own experiences dealing with conflict, I've identified areas that I feel I excel at, as well as areas where I'm in need of some improvement. Tonight, I'll explore these aspects in more detail and discuss strategies that we can all use to improve our conflict management skills. Firstly, I try to avoid overusing text and email when I communicate. Have you ever sent someone a message only for it to be grossly misinterpreted? Despite their convenience, the lack of a voice can leave these kind of messages ambiguous, which can cause conflict. I have a coworker who loves to send texts and emails. He'll send me messages like, "The washer is alarming. We need more of these hooks. Why did the oven just shut off?" And the way I just vocalize these messages is often how I interpret them, very demanding. One day I was so annoyed by it all that I went to talk to him about it. "Hey, I got your message about ordering a new motor for the washer." "Oh yeah, I sent you that message just so that I wouldn't forget. You don't need to get to it right away." Definitely not the demanding tone that I got from these messages, but this just shows how easily our messages can be misconstrued. To avoid these situations, I recommend having a phone call or a video call instead. Second, when I encounter a potential conflict, I make sure that I fully understand the situation before I jump to conclusions. Are you familiar with the game telephone? Well, for a quick refresher, a message gets whispered from person to person until the end result is something that's been completely muddled and misconstrued. And this phenomenon can happen in real life as well, which can lead to unintentional conflict if assumptions are made based on this false information. A few months ago, I was looking to do some structural welding in our factory's paint department. The plan was to do the work in a few weeks, at which point all the paint would have been removed for our annual shutdown, eliminating the chance of a fire. Well, the welder who was going to do the work went and talked to the safety department about it, and soon after I get an urgent meeting notice from them entitled "Concerns with Welding in the Paint Room." Well, to be honest, I was pretty frustrated as I thought I had laid out a pretty clear plan that would have kept everybody safe. Well, I tried to pay attention during the meeting and listen intently to what they had to say, and I noticed a discrepancy. You see, they thought we wanted to do the welding work right away, instead of waiting until all the paint was removed. But once I explained to them the discrepancy, they were immediately agreeable to our plan. This small misinterpretation led to a perceived conflict, but because of the fact that we were both so willing to listen to the other's point of view and understand it, we were able to just as quickly dispel this conflict before it got out of hand. And now that I've examined some areas I feel I excel at in managing conflict, I also want to highlight some areas where I'm in need of improvement. Firstly, many of the techniques that are outlined in this project are not as easy to implement as they may initially seem, especially when you're dealing with difficult people. And let me tell you, I had a roommate in college who I would describe as difficult. Maybe you've had someone like this in your life. Never cleaned up after himself, left food in the fridge until the stench was repulsive, was always late paying his share of the rent. You could say him and I had some conflict. And in dealing with him, I used all of the proper techniques. I expressed my concerns, listened, and empathized with his perspective, and helped create solutions that we could both agree on. Yet the issues persisted, and gentle reminders of our agreement only ceased to annoy him further until I ended up instigating a screaming match between the two of us. Now, do you think he was willing to negotiate with me after that? Even if you follow the guidelines, you won't always get the results you want the first or even the 15th time due to factors that are entirely outside of your control. Rather than getting frustrated, the key here is to have patience. Lastly, I think we can all agree that making others happy feels good. But what about when someone else's happiness is in direct competition to yours, as so often happens when we're dealing with conflict? In these situations, I can be a little too hasty to compromise on my values in order to appease the other party. I experienced this situation a few months ago. My sister was planning a bridal shower with a large guest list despite the pandemic that we're in. And so my wife and I agreed for our safety that we would not attend. This was not well received by my family. My mother called me soon after to tell me how disappointed and angry she was with me and argued why I had to be there. And she honestly brought up some pretty good points, and I was just about to change my mind and pack my bags and say, okay, I'll be there, before my wife stepped in and put her foot down and said, we are not coming. Was my family upset? Yeah, you bet they were, but after a couple of weeks, it was like it never even happened. Getting along with others is definitely important, but when a clash of values creates conflict, we shouldn't be so hasty to compromise on our values just to appease the other party. Having the courage to stand firm to what we believe in, even when it's not what others want, is sometimes necessary. Dealing with conflict is a vital skill in life. While I'm sure you don't go out of your way to seek out conflict, it's still an inevitability of working with other people. And hopefully these techniques can help you with your conflict management skills. If we work to communicate effectively, listen intently to the other party, have patience, and hold firm to our values, we can begin to deal with conflict in a stronger way. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Aaron. Madam Timer, would you give us a couple of minutes to write our evaluations of Aaron's speech?
Yes, I will.
All right, very good.
Someone's got like a cat or something. Does anyone else hear that like purring noise?
I think Aaron's having delusions at this point.
I know. Bob heard it.
Okay.
I heard it.
At this point, it's technically time for me to evaluate the speaker, but I would like some more time. So the first thing I'm going to do is just check with the timer and see, did our speaker qualify?
Yes.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on to table topics. Our topics master tonight is Art Atkinson. We'll be going to, let's see, 8:32 per the agenda. We need to cut that 3 or 4 minutes short so we can get back to me and the speech evaluation. So we'll go to 8:28. Art, could you take it away, please?
Yes, sir. So tonight's theme has suggested to me many interesting questions about facts and opinions. I love the pungent quotation from E.B. White. Who would like to be my first Table Topics participant? Jean.
Okay.
So the question is, what is the difference between fact and opinion, and about which? No. What is the difference between fact and opinion? That's it. I was going to make it more complicated and I stopped before I made that mistake.
Yeah, you didn't want to act like me, Art.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and viewers at home. In terms of the difference between facts and opinions, there are a couple of ways that I think that could be looked at. The first, I would say, is sequential as part of a process. A fact is something that is widely recognized as true, or as having existence, or being something that doesn't change regardless of some thought process about it. It's just a fact. The opinion is a subjective development or a subjective creation by a person based on, hopefully, based on facts that it's almost like an interpretation. So the one example would be based on these facts about changing climate and vanishing animal species and extreme weather events. My opinion is that we do have a climate change situation happening and that we need to address it with immediate steps. So my opinion, which is a subjective compilation of ideas, is based on facts. That would be the high road for an opinion. A conclusion or a statement that's based on facts. This is my opinion. We should do something about this. And the facts come first, and then comes the opinion and the interpretation, and here's what we need to absorb as a result. I was going to try to time myself and I screwed up. Got too caught up. Well, I guess I'll start myself right now then. The more nefarious way of thinking of them is being facts are something that are recognized as being in existence, as regardless of what position you stand or where you are, that those exist and they are not able to be not really in dispute. Whereas an opinion would be something that would be in contrast to facts, where the person is saying, well, this is what I believe, and it doesn't matter what the facts are, this is what I believe, and this is my opinion. If you're going to base your actions on one type of phenomenon, facts or opinions, you're probably going to want to base your actions on facts because they're more stable, they're more solid, and they're more widely recognized as valid. That would be my distinction on those. Lean into facts. You're certainly entitled to have opinions based on facts, but if you stick with facts, you won't go wrong. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Okay. I'm ready for the next participant. Okay, Mr. Fogel, you are next.
All right.
So the question is, how changeable or unchangeable are facts? Can you tell us about facts which once were thought one way and now are thought another way? I'll give you an example of one. There was a fact 5,000 years ago that the earth was flat. That is not accepted as a fact now. Can you talk about another example of a fact which changed?
Thank you for that question, Art. About something that was a fact that we find out that has changed, and those facts have changed. And what comes to mind is really nothing. That's a tough one, but I'll step out there. I guess I have to go more of a personal thing for me, if that's possible. Maybe even more, what I mean by that is, when I grew up, I had the perception of our country and the Constitution. And here in the last 4 years, it seems like the facts that always resonated with me as an American seem to be sliding or moving to a different direction based upon the narrative of who is in charge politically. And so what I believed as facts were growing up, just one example. Matter of fact, how I can back this fact up is I read a book from Mark Twain. Mark Twain, he said that abortion back in the turn of the century was murder and people should be hung for abortion. That's what Mark Twain quoted. But now, with our current administration, our current policies, we find out that abortion isn't wrong and it can be done by anyone at any time for basically any reason. Yes, the laws have changed. So if the laws have changed, that's fine, but what is the fact? Is the fact changed because our people in office changed them? Or was the fact right before, back when Mark Twain was alive? What were the facts? So I guess I answered that question, leaving a question. What are the facts? And the facts is whatever you believe. Thank you for the question, Art.
Okay. Next participant. Aaron. Okay, I'm going to give you a set of facts about a situation and ask you a question about it. You're in an airplane. You have a parachute on and you know that it was properly packed. You're being offered $1 million to jump out of the airplane. Will you jump?
Can you repeat the part with just the facts?
The facts are that you're in an airplane. You're wearing a parachute, which you know was properly packed. You're being offered $1 million to jump out of the airplane. Will you jump? Let me get just a yes or no from you, and then I will give you one more fact.
Art's too much. You got to let him do his thing. We got to let him do his talk. Sorry, editorial injection there.
They say that knowledge is power. And I would say that in this situation, I have quite a bit of knowledge. Relatively simple, but enough to make an opinion. If I know that my parachute has been properly packed and I'm waiting to make the decision of whether or not to jump, I'm going to jump. Because the last thing I know is that I can be pretty greedy sometimes, and I want that $1 million. And I also have always wanted to skydive, and that sounds like a lot of fun. And maybe just the tiniest hint of danger with the fact that my parachute may not engage, even though I guess it would lead to my death. That tiny bit of danger is almost like an adrenaline rush that makes me want to do it even more. In this situation, the facts of the case make me to believe that I will be absolutely safe, and I want that $1 million. What I'm going to do with it, I guess I'll wait until I make it safely on the ground to actually decide that. But until that point, I'm looking forward to do some amazing skydiving, knowing full well that my parachute is going to be deployed, and it will be fun and exciting. Thank you.
Okay, let me give you one more fact.
Okay.
Oh, no, Art, you got to go on. This is not a grilling. You can't grill him. You got to go on to the next.
I want to hear the other fact.
Yeah.
Well, somebody else, Dan was just waving his hand. I think he wants to go.
If I volunteer, go ahead and tell me the other fact, and then you can go to my question.
All right.
You want the fact?
Yes?
Your airplane is parked on the tarmac.
That's an interesting fact.
Good one.
Okay, so that's the humor element. Okay, good.
The idea is, when do you think you have all the facts? Okay, my next participant. Who's the next participant?
Dan?
Yep.
When is it reasonable to say I have all the facts that I need to know?
Would you repeat that?
In any given situation, when is it reasonable to say I have all the facts that I need? I can make a conclusion.
Mr. Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters. This question brings up for me a very interesting consideration of how we make decisions. We do vary a lot in how we decide to do that. It's partly a personality thing, I think. Some people like to think that they kind of, immerse themselves a bit in the facts, and then they go with their gut feeling. The idea is that their intuition has synthesized everything that's necessary for them. Other people want to be really objective and logical, consider in two different columns. These are the pros and these are the cons, and which con can I live with, and are there enough pros, that kind of thing. Having laid that out, what I'm really trying to say is, in some sense, it's almost always true that you can't know all the facts. If you knew every possible fact, you could say there was no decision to make. It should be clear if you knew everything. So my thesis is that in almost every case, you're going to have to go with the most readily available subset of what there is and go with that. And part of that, like I say, is based on your personality. For you, what feels like enough knowledge, what feels like enough in the way of objective facts so that you can go ahead and make your decision. I think my personality really is that I like to depend on facts, but at some point, I just get tired of considering things. I just make a decision because I'm a little tired of worrying about the whole thing. Thanks for the question.
It is 8:25, and we were calculating 8:31.
8:28. We could do one more.
Okay.
Carmen, do you want to do one and have somebody evaluate you?
Yes, please.
Jean, could you evaluate Carmen?
Well, you know, I'm timing, I'm counting, and I don't know if I can evaluate also.
Ah,
I will evaluate Carmen.
okay, good deal.
So, Carmen, tell us about any situation in your life where you thought you had all the facts, you learned something new, and you changed your opinion.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home. I really like this question because it brings to my memory that things that I didn't learn when I was a child and I want to learn now, and they are too hard. For example, I always wanted to ride a bike. I don't know how to ride a bike. So when I was a child, my sister had a bike and she knew how to ride it. But then we are 5 years old apart. So the bike was by that time really old. So I couldn't do it because it was too old. And then when I came here to this country, and then I start to drive a car, and I realized that how can I drive a car if I don't know how to ride a bike? And I started to learn. There was like a one class with those bicycles that were really tiny. And actually it worked for a couple of maybe minutes. and then I realized that I didn't have a balance actually. And I said, how can it be so hard? And there were a lot of people like me in their 20s, in their 30s, because this was a group class. And actually it was really hard. There were some people that tried it and they did a pretty good job, but I knew that at the same time that those were the younger ones, not the oldest one. So for that reason, I know that there are some ages that are better for you to learn, maybe because you don't have experiences like you can fall or you are not scared at that time, or you just think that you are gonna go to the hospital if you fall really hard or something like that. Ambulance coming, police, 911, whatever. But I think right now, I would like to try it, but I'm gonna be very cautious. So that's my conclusion. I thank you for the question.
Okay, it's 8:29.
Yes, we should ask our timer who qualified.
Did we have 4 table topics?
We had Dan,
Five.
Bob,
5.
Okay, and I didn't time myself correctly at all even. So, all
You
right.
were so over time.
That was a 4-minute table topic. I move we recognize that Jean shattered the.
the all-time record
He had
breaker.
Jean had an inordinate amount of time.
Yes.
That's right.
I think a special award might be in it.
I was thinking, well, I wonder what time it is. And then I realized, oh, you're supposed to be keeping track of that. All right. So yes, everybody qualified. That's all we do, right? Everybody qualified.
That's all we do. I'm the Toastmaster, so send me a chat with your vote. Our candidates are Carmen, me, Aaron, and Bob.
Right. If you want to say you would have voted for me, but I was so over time, you can feel free to add that too.
Okay, let's go ahead and have Carmen give the table topics evaluations. I'm sorry, Bob, I actually should have you ask Carmen to give the table topics evaluation, but I just did it for you. So go ahead, Carmen. And then at the end, Art can evaluate Carmen's table topic.
Thank you,
So-
Mr. Toastmasters.
2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll give Art like 30 seconds or 45 seconds. Okay.
I'm going to evaluate Jean. And the question is the difference between fact and opinion. Jean greeted the audience at the very beginning. She was talking about the facts and the opinions. She was talking about the definitions. And she was really define those terms in detail, and I really like it because this one is just a question that you have to know the difference between the fact and the opinion. But at the same time, my suggestion should be that there was kind of confusing when you are just talking about the definitions and then you again talk about the same definitions but with other words. So I would like to hear like an example, maybe a personal example that you know, or any other example for a fact, and then an example for an opinion. But at the end, I think it was really good. You were explaining a lot of things. I don't know if you were overtime, but it didn't look to me, but it was a very good speech. For Bob, the question was how changeable or unchangeable with the facts over time. Talk about an example. So there was a tough question. You talk about something personal for your own experience. I really like the example that you gave us about abortion, how abortion changed over time. My only suggestion is that maybe you forgot to greet the audience at the very beginning of your speech, but it was really good. For Aaron, the question was to set a fact for if you are gonna jump from an airplane with a parachute. And then you said that you are going to choose the $1 million because sometimes you are pretty greedy. I really like because you were so honest, but you didn't greet the audience too. So that's my only suggestion to you, greet the audience. And then for Dan, the questions was if you is reasonable that when you have all the facts and then make a conclusion and you greet the audience, you gave a good introduction. You were talking about intuition and personality, but I think the conclusion was a little bit vague, or you didn't emphasize the question with the answer at the very end, but it was really good. Thank you.
Carmen, in your answer to the question of an experience in your own life, you gave a personal story concerning learning to ride a bicycle as compared with learning to drive a car. You illustrated with the example being the development of a skill, balance, and how that was something that you had concluded was best learned at a certain age, was more difficult to learn as an adult. It was a good description of your personal commitment to learning balance and learning how to ride a bicycle now. And if I had any suggestion for you, it would be to choose an example that is more about learning a fact than developing a skill. That's my evaluation.
Thank you, Art. Bob, would you, as general evaluator, go ahead and introduce me as speech evaluator?
Yes. As general evaluator, I'd like to welcome Dan as our evaluator for this evening's topics. Go ahead, Dan, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Aaron. The purpose of Aaron's project tonight was to think about conflict resolution, to consider how he has experienced it in his life, and hopefully in the process learn more about it by synthesizing that all together. He's supposed to give a well-ordered speech, and he definitely did. I thought that was a strong point in this project. Very well laid out. One of the things that the evaluation guides asks is, what did the speaker do well? And I put 2 or 3 pluses by having a personal story as an illustration for each and every point in the talk. Very, very well done. And they were good stories, and they were interesting stories. So those effectively engaged your audience in something that could have been a little bit dry. Something you might want to work on in giving this speech again or a similar speech is vocal variety. I felt that most of the speech I was hearing the same cadence of delivery, the same volume of the voice. Perhaps in the cases where you were telling a story where there was more than one person involved, you could have a little bit of a characterization, you know, change your voice a bit, the pitch of it to represent a different character. That might be one effective thing. Another thing you might do is have a certain section for variety of your talk, which is quieter and slower, and then get back to your regular speed. And then to challenge yourself, my feeling is that you might want to try practicing the talk on video and see how you come across on the screen. We saw, particularly in the winter of the international speech contest, the amazing things you can do in terms of orienting yourself differently in different parts of the screen. I'm not going to try to reproduce any of those, but some of the things that the winner in particular did were really quite impressive. And I have a related suggestion, and that is, I think we're all struggling a bit when we've got our gallery view up to actually look at our cameras, because if we don't look at our cameras, then our viewers don't get eye contact. If we're looking at our gallery view at the different parts of the screen, like I'm doing now, it looks like I'm looking down at my notes. So somehow, maybe we all need to put a Post-it note up when we do a speech up next to our little camera that says, "Look at me." With those perhaps changes in your talk, I think it could be even stronger, but it was quite a strong presentation. Well organized, interesting, well delivered. I thought it was an excellent speech for us to hear tonight. Thank you.
So what, am I next here, Dan, or?
Why don't you just ask the timer which evaluators qualify?
Oh. Mr. Timer, which evaluators qualified for this evening?
Both Dan and Carmen qualified.
Great. There you have it. Well,
So let's send a vote to me,
okay.
even though, you know, I'll just gather the facts.
We trust you.
Send a vote to me, the Toastmaster, for your vote for best evaluator. At this point, Bob, I think you could go and ask each of your role players to give their reports.
Okay. So I guess we'll start off with the timers report. Jean, can you?
Yes, thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Aaron's speech was 6 minutes and 44 seconds. For table topics, Bob was 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Aaron was 1 minute, 33 seconds. Dan was also 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Carmen was 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Jean was unknown. For our evaluators, Carmen was 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Dan was 3 minutes and 28 seconds. And that's my report.
Thank you. This is time. Next, we would ask for our grammarian, the grammarian board. Is that Aaron?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Our word of the day was inordinate. I heard it 3 times, once by Dan, once by Jean, and once by myself. Were there any instances that I forgot about? All right. And shout out to Dan and Jean for using the word of the day before it was even formally given.
That's just how we roll. It's how we roll.
I regret to inform the group that I was probably not paying as close attention as I should have with my use of language. I did notice that that Art, who always manages to use one turn of phrase that I always enjoy, he said that the quote for tonight was pungent. Did I remember that correctly, Art? And I thought that was very clever. I've never heard a quote called pungent before, but I think it fits. I made a note of that. That's my reports.
As we move along, do I do the general evaluation about the evaluators for Dan and Carmen? Is
What
that?
about
Just
Achman?
do you have the agenda there to look at, Bob? From
I don't have it right in front of me.
okay,
No.
that would be that would be the thing to have. And actually we all should sort of have it so we can keep an eye on where we are and what's happening. But counter, Dan?
I'll counter, and then I'll counter is Jean, and then Bob, you're going to be the joke master.
Okay.
And then you could give your evaluation of the evaluators.
Okay.
Okay.
So Jean is the all counter.
Counter. Yes, I'll go ahead and do that. I will have a caveat that a couple times I noticed myself putting hash marks in people other than the person I was intending. So that was particularly Dan and Art. So that was a little unusual, but here we go. Aaron had 2 ahs, 5 repeats, and 1 and. Bob had 1 well, 2 so's, and a couple of ands, where the sentence just ran together with and, like that. Dan had 3 ahs, 1 1 so, 4 repeats. And having said what I said about getting mixed up, I think this is correct. So we'll go with this as a fact. This is a fact, not an opinion on where we are. Carmen had 2 3 so's, 2 repeats, and 1 and. Art had 1 ah. Art's always so clean. And that's my report.
So Dan, would you like me to lead to the joke first and then do the evaluation at the last?
Yes, let's have the fun stuff first.
Okay. All right.
Dessert before broccoli.
I like that. So my dog ate all the Scrabble tiles. For days, he's been leaving messages all around the house. Have you heard of the new restaurant called Karma? There's no menu. You just get what you deserve. Why can't you explain puns to a kleptomaniac? They always take things literally.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of exercise do lazy people do? Dilly squats.
Diddly squats.
Dilly squats. This is my final one. What did the Tin Man say when he got run over by a steamroller? Curses. Foiled again.
Those were good.
Try to get the delivery helps.
All right. Yay, Joke Master.
All right. Well, I will do the general evaluation, and I will start with Carmen on hers. You get a timer on this, Jean?
3 to 4. So green at 3, and then yellow 3.5, and then red at 4.
Okay.
Okay.
So first of all, I better start out with my greetings, which I always seem to not do so well. So I want to welcome my fellow friends and Toastmasters, as well as worldwide video participants that watch our show weekly, and honored guests who are with us today. Carmen, what I enjoyed about you, when you very articulate, so you write down the questions. So when something's answered, or when a question is thrown out to a fellow Toastmaster, you have it in detail. So it helps refresh my memory and those who are watching to remember, oh, that was the question. Because sometimes those questions get lost before we hear what the evaluation is, because we hear so many of them. And that's what I liked about it. And one thing that I would suggest, though, is that if you take a few minutes, and I know Dan brought it up about we need to look at our camera and not at our little screens. I think we all can work on that, but I suggest that even when you have to read, that you just take a moment and just acknowledge in the camera. That would possibly could help. You did have very good notes of us, like I shared, and you did overall. You did a great job, Carmen. Dan, I like the way you did the intro for me. I'm glad you picked up the slack for the newbie here. That was good. Dan, he also listens very well. And if I could give one suggestion, Dan, I would, when you were critiquing Aaron on his thing about the voice control and things of that nature, maybe you just give one little example of one particular story that Aaron was shared in there, because Aaron had quite a few good little stories in there, and it was fast moving. And I just wish you could have, share a little bit more on that.
Good.
And other than that, you did very good. You're always top notch, and I learned a lot from you, Dan. With that, that's end of my report.
One thing you do per the agenda, Bob, is to give the meeting back to the next role player. So you give it back to the Toastmaster.
I give it back to the Toastmaster this evening, which is
Well
Dan.
put. It's time for the meeting awards. We had one speech, and it was the best speech of the evening, easily. Jean, do you have your award ribbons ready?
I'm ready.
Best
I'm ready.
speaker, I present Aaron Russell. All right.
Mhm.
Then we have best table topics. Drum roll, please. Carmen. And finally, best evaluator. Dan. That's our awards for the evening. Let me give the meeting back to our president, Aaron Russell.
Thank you. We did have thank you all very much for another successful meeting this evening. I appreciate all the effort that everyone does towards making our meetings as smooth and enjoyable as they always are. We did have our officers meeting today. We did decide that due to time constraints on Tuesday evenings prior to meeting that we move our officers meetings to Wednesday at, what's that?
First Wednesday.
The first Wednesday of every month from 8 to 9 o'clock. And it's the same link, right?
I don't know. I'll have to
Oh yeah, I guess we'll have
get
to.
that. I will follow up with Teresa.
Okay. Thank you, Jean.
Mhm.
The district huddle is October 24th. If people are ambitious, they can go in person at the Grandview University in Des Moines. But it will also be broadcast online. And what did you say a ticket was, Jean? $12, roughly?
It's $10 if you want to do a virtual ticket, and they will be. You'll be able to watch it online, probably Zoom, and it's for $10 is the ticket, and $1.94 for the the credit card servicing. So basically like 12. It'll be educational though, and good.
It's always
It's
a fun time.
It's kind of
District
all
events
day.
are always fun. It's nice. Yeah, Dan.
The main thing I learned at the one huddle that I went to, I guess it was the last one, was the awards that they give. It's just so impressive to see how prolific some of the Toastmasters are, particularly if you think about things like the Triple Crown, where
Yeah.
some people are given a lot of speeches, you know, week by week to various clubs and fulfilling a lot of educational requirements. It's quite impressive.
Dan, maybe you could describe what the Triple Crown is.
Well, for example, in the old system, this would be easier for me to think of it this way. You might have gotten a competent communicator, and that would be one educational award. Perhaps you kept going and got an advanced communicator bronze. Perhaps you kept going and got an advanced communicator silver. That would be 30 speeches. That would be a Triple Crown. You got 3 educational awards. It's something similar in Pathways. Do I have it wrong, Jean?
No,
3 levels.
It's it's the same idea. If you do 3 levels in your path, you have a Triple Crown. Mm-hmm.
It's probably easier to do in the Pathways setup than in the old manuals, just the sheer volume of speeches. But it's pretty impressive to get 3 of them in 1 year.
Yeah, district events are always fun. I find that the people at the district level show so much devotion to the organization, and it's just fun to be around other Toastmasters who are as passionate, if not more passionate than we are. That's what I found from the district events that I've gone to. So I encourage people to come if they're able to. Does anyone have any other announcements? That's really all I had. I think everyone was at the officers meeting, so I don't even know if the announcements I made were really necessary, but that's okay. The viewers at home can know about it.
I'll make one announcement.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure. Art, are you going to be doing anything for October? Have you thought it through, speech-wise?
I believe I will be ready for October 20th.
Okay. Okay.
I read your email.
Yeah, okay, good. So the thing I just wanted to mention was, you remember at the beginning of September, we talked about the fall speech campaign of 1 every 2 months or 1 every 2. And we are on track based on speeches already given and speeches that are scheduled in October for every member to have contributed to that. So I think that's kudos to us. We'll be excited after when we get to November 1, but it's good.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I mean, it takes every member, so we can't do it alone. So we appreciate all the effort that everyone does.
Right. Okay.
Well, if no one has anything else, then I'll call that a meeting. Thank you all very much for attending tonight's meeting, and we will see you all next week.